You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. I wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Welcome to the, wait a second. Why am I frozen? Howdy! Okay, much better. Welcome to the Monday stream. The first Monday of 2025. I hope everyone had a good new year. And there goes my camera again. Look at that. We're starting off fantastic. Welcome everybody. Quad Bennett, Yellow King, welcome. Who will be the next Canada PM? I don't know. Michael Hasser, welcome. Derry Bennett, happy January 6th. Cognizant, welcome. New National Patriotism Holiday. Come show your loyalty by trying to overthrow the seat of government. Happy January 6th, 2021, everybody. We're fine. Where'd you go? I'm not sure yet. Your voice is all we need. There you go. Just, don't worry, the camera will be back in just a second. I can't figure this out. It happens to me almost every time. But that's okay. Let's try it again. All right. I thought it was working, and then I didn't test it. But next time I'll make sure it is. I just don't get why it keeps doing that. That's okay. All right, folks. Yes, Echo Wrestle Dragon, welcome. Judge finds Giuliani in civil contempt in the 2020 election worker case. Yes, I believe we have that one lined up. That's pretty funny. It's the only good news today. Whew. A bit of a rocky start there, but it's all good. We fixed it. Thank you all for hanging out today. I appreciate you guys. You guys are what makes this channel go. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, there are many different ways of doing so. Keep liking the stream on YouTube, and consider checking out the merch store and hitting exclamation mark tip. Also, join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord. Okay. Fun place to be, and we do events there as well. So consider joining the Discord. Yeah, everything's fine. See, I got my little everything's fine. Question hound meme. And I've got the little crab rave in the background too. Subscribe to the Substack, folks. That's going to be coming back to life soon. As we kick things off in the new year. Most likely it will be either if it can't be this week, it will be in if it can't be this week, it will be in the next week. We'll be kicking the Substack back into gear. In any case, soon. If it can't be this week that I post, then we will do it next week. All right, folks, let's get started. It is freaking cold, folks. Let me tell you. For those of you that are seeing the worst end of the winter Arctic blast that is going to hit us not just now, but also next week, I believe, or the end of this week. Stay warm, everybody. It is freaking cold, let me tell you. Already ready for summer fun. Whew. As a lifelong Floridian, I lived in permanent summer. So where I am now, in comparison, it's nice to have the change. It's nice to have the change, but like, man, this is cold. Cold for me, anyways. Enjoying the chill. Did Trudeau really resign? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I think it was today, this morning, that he officially resigned. Trudeau hasn't resigned again? Hasn't resigned yet? No? I thought he... Oh, well, did he make his announcement that he's gone? I forget what the exact... Okay, he made his announcement today, I think. But basically, yeah, he's gone. The Liberal Party needs to hold a leadership election, and in the meantime, the Governor General prorogued Parliament. Gotcha. Like Angela Merkel wouldn't go away for months after. Gotcha. I'll be honest, I don't know how that works. But in any case, yes, he did. He did resign. I don't know who they're gonna pick. I don't know what the Liberal Party is going to do. But I can't imagine that being a good sign for Canada. I can't imagine that being a good sign for Canada. When a new leader is chosen, that's when Trudeau resigns as Prime Minister. Gotcha. Like, you mean like that's when he officially leaves his post, right? He'll still be the MP for his riding, but that's it. Gotcha. All right, folks, we got to get started. Whoa. Pause. 1 second. How Wall Street stole your retirement. All right.
We need to talk about retirement.
Do you feel like you have enough savings right now?
Absolutely not.
Definitely not, no.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Probably not, no.
Did you think there's any reasons for why saving is so hard right now?
Oh man, you're asking all the questions that keep
Canada has to hold a federal election this year anyway, but right now having Trudeau as PM has stalled Parliament. Gotcha.
me up at night. Rent is really high. Groceries are really high.
58% of Gen Z and millennials are not saving enough to retire when they're older. And we're not the only ones. Half of Americans have no retirement savings at all.
Saving for retirement is hard. For families, it's super hard. You got to buy stuffies, you got to buy ice creams.
The asset price has gone up, our wages are still low.
But whose fault is that?
Are they just lazy, I guess?
Yes. The good old, just millennials and younger people are just entitled, lazy people. Gotcha. No, it's probably exactly as this person points out. That's probably a symptom of capitalism.
I believe we can blame late-stage capitalism.
According to these guys, it might be the government?
Increase the age on Social Security.
Nope.
Means test Social Security.
Nope. Not at all. Increase the age to for Social Security. To what age? It's literally about 67. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Social Security is already high enough as it is. 67. Okay. 67 years old. It is criminal that you would want a population to work until they're 67. Yeah, 80, I guess, until you die. Peter Thiel would say, not as privately anymore, they're getting more and more emboldened, but would say that you should work until you die. And no, you should not means test something like Social Security. That's not how this works. Increase Social Security age to 150 and give all the money to billionaires. Sorry, that's Peter Thiel's thoughts, not mine. 67 for full benefit. If you make the mistake of retiring earlier, they force you to to accept less forever. Correct. Yes, exactly.
Security, so not everyone gets it.
You have the fiscally unsustainable reality that is Social Security, a giant pyramid scheme with an aging population. Everyone knows we're either going to have to radically increase taxes or radically reduce benefits in the next few years.
That's not true. Also, we could radically increase taxes on the wealthy by lifting the cap so that someone like Peter Thiel isn't paying the same amount as like the threshold of 100 as someone making 100 and something $1,000 a year. I forget what the cap is. 160 something. It's 176,000. Or sorry, excuse me. This previous years in 2024. The Social Security tax cap was at 168,000. So yeah, I think that's where we can find the money. They already do. I can't get Social Security disability because I'm married and we make too much. 2,000 if you're single and only 3,000 for couples. Yep. Move the cap and yeah, a Social Security disability is difficult as it is. Remove the cap, revenue problem solved. Yep. Bernie's been talking about this for decades. There's a reverse Kramer index that's doing hotcakes. That's funny.
Jim Cramer and the CEO of BlackRock, who's worth $1.3 billion, think it might actually be your fault.
Younger people, they don't know how to invest.
No. Well, I don't think also the younger generation knows where and who to listen to.
It's gotten so bad, even working Americans think it's their own fault they can't retire.
When I was younger, and if things had went better, I wouldn't be going to work this morning. I'd be going fishing, or I'd be going hunting, and I blame myself for it.
That's bleak. So is it our fault that none of us have decent savings? Did millions of Americans just get really bad at financial literacy? I had to investigate.
Or is it maybe that a handful of people that are absurdly rich have gaslit you into thinking that you're actually the problem?
Who killed America's retirement? And don't worry, it's not completely hopeless. Stay till the end and we'll talk about what states are doing to help all working people save money. I ended up talking to 3 people about what retirement looks like in America, how people save, what employers used to offer and what they offer now, and if Social Security, like Ben Shapiro said, is going to totally run out before I get old.
If we don't raise the retirement age or privatize Social Security, we will go insolvent.
But before we get started, let's do a brief history of retirement in the United States.
It's actually incredible the lengths that Ben Shapiro will go to like show for the capital class, right? It's actually stunning. Just to what lengths Ben Shapiro goes to show for the capital class by saying that we should privatize Social Security or else it'll go insolvent. Not lift the cap, you know, and tax someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or Peter Thiel or any of these absurdly wealthy people. Tax them properly. No, that can't be, right? That's not the solution. The solution, of course, is to privatize it and give it, put it into private hands, which will most likely end up in these wealthy oligarchs' hands, and I'm sure only to benefit them. That's what we should do. Otherwise, it'll go insolvent. This is a classic. This is a classic bait and switch that capitalism does, where the capital class lobbies and buys politicians and engineers the scenario where a very good social program that is successful starts to break down, and then they go, well, you see, it's not working, so you should probably privatize it. $3,000 for 2 people is crazy. With the cost of living, should be at least $4,000. Yep. Release all the reserve housing into the market, and surprise, so housing prices will fall. Yep, housing is not a capital investment. Yep, there are huge, hilarious episodes behind the bastards at Rose Shapiro's awful political thriller novel. It reveals his own character flaws and is very dense with them. Is this like the book? Was it a book that Shapiro did that was incredibly cringe? This was like maybe a couple of years ago. Is that what they're referencing? Yep. Okay. Gotcha. Whew, boy. Tax non-primary housing units at 100%. Yep. I'm not opposed to that at all.
States. For a long time, at the end of your working life, you were basically just on your own or lived in what was called, I kid you not, a poorhouse.
And so they were forced to become wards of public charity.
Then in 1935, Franklin D. Roosevelt established Social Security.
Something had to be done. Something was done.
Which is a guaranteed benefit for all Americans that you pay into your whole life. So now most people today rely on 3 things when they retire. Whatever you have saved, Social Security, and whatever you get from your employer, which can be a pension or a 401k. But pensions are a lot like smoking on an airplane. Basically, only people born before 1960 got to experience it.
Yeah.
But
Jesus Christ. If you have time, watch this review of Wicked. Gotcha.
it was something that 52% of full-time workers had back in 1970, and that was especially true of union workers. So let's start there.
When I first started at Ford Motor Company, I had been a waitress with 3 kids, a single mom. It was the best.
Force empty housing to be on the market, and when it sits too long, force it to be sold at market clearing price or just confiscate it. Yep.
Best thing I thought could ever happen to me. My father worked for Ford. He always told me you need to find a job with security. This is it. Never really wanted to go somewhere where I had to stay inside for 40 hours a week. But I got there and I got my first paycheck and I thought, this isn't bad.
This is Sherry Kraft in Livonia, Michigan. She is a 3rd-generation auto worker.
So my grandfather worked his 30 years. He retired. He had a pension. He had health care. At 81 years old, he got lung cancer. Without his health care, the family would have been financially devastated.
Pensions are what's known as a defined benefit plan. That means that while you're working at the company, your boss sets aside a certain amount every month, no matter what, and then you get a monthly check when you retire. In 2004, Ford Motors stopped offering pensions to its employees, and a few years later, auto companies like Chrysler and GM did the same. GM claimed that pensions were just too expensive and made it impossible to compete internationally, so they introduced something else, the 401k.
When I hired in, it was just an uncertainty. Am I gonna have a future here? Can I buy a house? Can I move out of my parents? Can I buy a car? All of those things were very difficult.
This is Sherry's daughter, Sarah. She's a 4th-generation auto worker. but her time at Ford has been a lot different. For one, she doesn't have a pension.
Our 401k is based off what the stock market's doing. Depends on what president's in office. When COVID hit, I lost money. Every time I got something in the mail saying how much I have in my 401k, it was more than $300 less than what I had last month. I can't live on that. When we hired in, we knew that we weren't getting a pension and we knew that we weren't getting health care when we retired, but why should it be any different between me and my mother?
Yeah, you earned it too.
In this one family, you can see the impact of the shift from pensions to 401k.
Yeah, 401k is freaking garbage, man. Let me tell you. It's absolutely correct. You're basically at the whims of the stock market and that is at the whims of rich people's feelings and how much they want to gamble on said feelings. That's what your retirement is based on.
401ks. Sarah's story is like a lot of other.
Doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence, if you ask me.
Workers. Unless you're a government worker, like a teacher or a firefighter, you probably don't have a pension. Just look at this chart. Only 15% of people in the private sector get pensions now. How did the 401k overtake the pension? It's actually a pretty new invention. In 1980, a consultant for
Ronald Reagan.
major banks named Ted Benna found a very boring but very consequential change in our tax system that would allow businesses to create savings accounts for employees that were tax deferrable. This was the Tax Revenue Act of 1978, Section 401, subsection K. Unlike a pension plan, the 401k was a defined contribution plan, meaning you put in a certain amount of your money every month, which your employer may or may not match. This idea was actually revolutionary. Benna went to old school companies like Bethlehem Steel and told them, hey, you could save a lot of money doing this. And they were appalled. They were like, no way, we take care of our workers for life. And every other company in America said the same exact thing. Just kidding. Other companies like Johnson & Johnson and Pepsi were ready to jump on the opportunity. And soon, 401ks were everywhere.
There is an aspect of saving for retirement that's been turned into gambling.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. Damn, did I not just say that? It's like gamba based on rich people's freaking feelings, man. That doesn't inspire a whole lot of freaking confidence. Stop forcing workers to compete directly with venture capitalists, not revolutionary, regressive.
Teresa Ghilarducci says the decline of pensions and the rise of 401ks has made retirement a whole lot harder and created a lot of inequality. Those issues can be broken down to the structure of the 401k itself, tax benefits, and hidden fees.
In your do-it-yourself 401k system, so not only does the worker in a 401k model have to decide whether or not to be in a retirement account, but that worker also has to decide how much to put in the account.
See, unlike pensions, 401ks are, for the most part, opt-in. So while 67% of workers have access to a 401k, only 49% actually use it. And they're also opt-out, meaning you can take out cash for life emergencies or with a fee for non-emergencies. And a lot of people do. In 2020, for example, 30% of people dipped into their IRA or 401ks for extra money.
Yeah, including me. I had a emergency with the roof, and the insurance company was not going to cover it. And as it turns out, I did not have a whole new roof money. So that had to come out of a hardship withdrawal because as the rules state, it had to be a situation where your insurance wasn't going to cover it, and it had to be something that that is necessary. I would argue that it completely fell into that perfectly, and It's because people just don't have the money. It's difficult. It's not even gambling. It's everyone sitting at the gambling table. Venture capitalists get to cheat without limit. Yeah, I guess now, like, I guess it really is like that. I'm actually reading a book about exactly that. It's actually right here. Recommended by James Napper Tandy. So yeah, nice insight as to how broken the how broken Wall Street is. And just how it came to be that we are in the situation that we are. Heat, how's it going? Show off. You can read occasionally, as it turns out. Welcome.
Who usually takes the money out before retirement? Lower income people.
401ks are also tax deferrable, meaning you put income into your account before taxes, which saves you money. But because of the way our tax system is set up, that means more tax savings for high income people and lower tax savings for the rest of us. The other problem is that 401ks have fees that most people don't know about. In the 1980s, when they were brand new, employers would cover the operating costs of 401ks. But companies, in a strange twist of events, have gotten a lot more greedy. Now, employees are responsible for most of those operating costs, as well as hefty fees for asset managers who are the guys handling your retirement savings. Pensions, on the other hand, are pooled together by your employer, and that giant pot of money means companies can spread financial risk across a large group and get significantly lower fees.
So the system was really rigged against over half of the population of workers. That's why most Americans don't have enough savings.
The decline,
and that's by design. That is by design. The only thing that matters is the interest of the capital class, and they have decreed that they're going to come after your retirement, and they did. It's just more cheaper for them. Sorry, guys. That's just the way it is. It's just more cheaper for them. And that's where it begins and ends. Yeah, we're just ants. It's okay.
Of pensions and the rise of the 401k has translated to a big loss of wealth for working people. But there's another big change in the American economy that we need to talk about. The growing number of people, especially in younger generations, who are doing gig work, part-time, or freelance jobs.
Yeah, which none of those, by the way, have a opt-in 401k. You are your own 401k, okay? Because you are your own employer, right? You're a gig worker. You're doing this for yourself, so therefore you don't you're responsible for all of this, right? You are your own employer, essentially. Do worker ants ever decide to just give up and eat their queen, I wonder? That is a good question. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know.
Those workers don't have 401ks or pensions. So how do they save for retirement? What's that?
Chances are they don't. As he just exactly points out, they don't make enough to live. They don't make enough to live and handle the cost of living, let alone save. So
I'm one of them. How do we save for retirement? Well, there's only one benefit that is guaranteed in this country, and that is Social Security. No matter what I do for work, whether I'm full-time or self-employed, I will get that sweet, sweet check when I'm too old to work on these videos or give foot massages to AI or whatever my job ends up being.
Social Security is like a massive pension plan. Everybody who works for a living is enrolled in Social Security, and your employer is automatically enrolled. It pays out benefits not in a lump sum, but it pays out benefits for the rest of your life.
And it's wildly popular. 79% of Americans don't want to see it cut at all. So politicians wouldn't go after something that's so universally loved, right?
The Republican Party has always been against Social Security.
Yeah, again, like this is the classic playbook, right? You in order to destroy something that's very popular, and this happens with, for example, the NHS in England, right? Where conservative lawmakers just can't go out and say, we're going to cut the NHS, we're going to work towards privatization of the NHS. They can't do that. They have to engineer ways at the behest of the capital class to say, for example, hamstring it so that it does fail, and then they can come in and say, well, don't worry, we're going to privatize it. Or they'll say, like, look, see, government doesn't work. That's what you get when you want government to do your retirement. That's what you get when you want government to do your healthcare, right? Yeah, that's how they dismantle it, little by little by little.
And in their campaign to make government smaller and to have less regulation, they realized that they had to attack the most popular program.
Around the same time that Ted Benham was manipulating the tax code, right-wing think tanks like the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation were devising a way to dismantle
Reagan.
Social Security.
For young workers entering the workforce today, even if they receive all the Social Security benefits they're promised under current law, the program will still be a miserable deal for those workers, given the enormous tax burdens they face.
Yeah, shut up. Anyways, so, like, man, a lot of, like, our modern problems that we see manifesting here can really be traced back to freaking Reagan. Between like Reagan and Bush, it's been wild how much you can just kind of go back and pin this on them and the snowball that they started
over their careers.
And in the 1980s, these right-wing think tanks had a very powerful ally.
Ronald Reagan came into power. That administration also oversaw a cut in Social Security. Full retirement age increased from 65 gradually to now it's 67.
When people retire because of...
Like, 65 is already a pretty, like, egregious freaking number, man. 65. What's the average lifespan of the average American? Just saying. Look that up. And yeah, we never held them accountable. Right. Instead, they were venerated as some kind of great leader. Great leaders. So that's cool. About 83 for men. So 67 let me just do a little math here. 83 minus 67, 16 years. 16 years. To put some perspective on that. Like, you're telling me that you're going to force people to retire at age 67 to receive full benefits, of course, which they need because the cost of living, all that, you really, really would need the full Social Security benefit. 16 years, man. And we're just taking average. But like, man, does that sound right? Does that sound like a good society? Does that sound like a fair society? For my case, for my cast, it's 70. 70. 70 minus 67. Okay? Does that sound like a society that genuinely cares about its population? Does that sound like a good, fair society?
Of health reasons before the age of 67, they aren't eligible for full Social Security benefits. So raising the retirement age is really a cut in benefits. So fast forward to today, and people over 65 are currently the fastest growing population living in poverty. A big part of that is due to the fact that Social Security is...
Yeah, and just to be clear, Social Security was initially created to eliminate or to ease elderly poverty. Social Security was originally created to address the poverty issue within the older population. Dan Anonymously, welcome. Some people are born retired. They don't care about your retirement. True.
Actually pretty low. In 2024, the average Social Security beneficiary gets just over $1,800 per month. So what happens to those people? They live happily ever a lot of them go back to work.
He likes to work and needs to work.
Needs to work, I think, is the operative word, right? Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, at 65, at 60, I mean, like, being forced to work because if you don't, then you'll be out on the street. Like, that just seems cruel, man. And in putting it into context with, like, knowing just how much wealth there is, knowing that just one person has a net worth of hundreds of billions of dollars. You know, it just seems like cruel at this point. I was way off. The current lifespan is about 74 to 77 right now. Maybe it will be 83 when Gen X gets close. So taking that into account, let's say 77, right? 67, 77, that's an even 10, right? Just putting that out there for context, right? 10 years. But humanoid robots are going to do all the work so people can just F off and die, but only after you give all the wealth to the rich. True. That's the only you need to that's the last thing that you need to do.
But I feel guilty.
Be bled completely dry.
Too, because he's having to work at his age.
That's Tom Coomer. He actually did have a pension from his job at McDonnell Douglas, where he had worked his entire life. But the company shut down and merged with Boeing a year before Tom was eligible for a full pension. Now he and his wife live off a little over $3,000 a month. When seniors like Tom return to the workforce, they typically earn 20% less than they did before they retired and have to do more physically demanding jobs. As a country, we've made a lot of decisions that have made retirement almost impossible for millions of people. There are fewer good union jobs like the one Sherry Kraft had at Ford.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's like, it's the reason why, right? It's what's really freaking angering. It's the reason why. It's because that's going to the rich.
And with that, fewer pensions. The introduction of 401ks tied our future to the stock market. So now when you go to take those 401k funds at 67, you might find your money is turned into a loose paper clip and a gum wrapper. It's not the fault of young people or gig workers, Uber drivers or Walmart workers who have to work into their 80s. It's these guys. But if you're freaking out right now, don't, because there are solutions. The first is to strengthen Social Security. The Social Security Enhancement Act would tax income over $250,000 to increase Social Security benefits for all.
Just lift the cap, man. Just lift the cap completely. We still need people to fix the robots? Yeah, I suppose so. Until the robots figure out how to fix themselves. Then we're kind of screwed, right? Until then, I guess we're still useful.
According to a report from the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, adding this tax to just the top 10 CEOs' income would generate $147 million for Social Security.
Let's go, girls.
Pensions don't have to be a thing of the past. In the UK, corporations like Uber have been forced to provide pensions. Why should they play by different rules here? And even though Ford and GM didn't budge on reinstituting pensions, workers are going to keep fighting against their employers. And there's things that states and the federal government can do. Teresa supports the Retirement Savings for Americans Act.
So it would mandate that every worker who doesn't have a retirement account put in at least 1%, and the government would match it up to 3%.
Some states have also introduced savings accounts like IRAs that workers can auto-enroll in, whether their employer offers a savings account or not. In 2022, Congress made all new 401k plans automatic instead of opt-in like they are now. This means more people will be contributing to their 401ks. Union jobs are a lot more likely to offer a retirement plan than non-union. And from that, we can take a lesson from Sherry and Sarah and other UAW workers.
We need to break people of their immoral libertarian streak if humanity is going to survive. Yeah, I mean, it's really just like... It's really just breaking the grip of the capital class, and that happens through people uniting and people having class consciousness, to realize that like we're all screwed on the same ship, man. We're all sinking together. And struggling just so that a couple of rich parasites can have a little bit more before the whole thing goes down. So, yeah.
Now it is day 5 of the UAW strike against the Big Three.
GM, Ford, and Chrysler owner Stellantis.
Pension, pay, these are the issues that attracted these workers to the picket line.
The companies are trying to drive a race to the bottom, and we're better than that. America's better than that.
UAW ultimately won a 40% wage increase over a 4-year contract and a 10% match on their 401ks. Sarah says she's happy about these wins, but they lost the fight to restore pensions. They won't get another chance until their next contract negotiations with Ford in 2028.
And I'm not looking to retire until I know that my children are solvent, like most parents. I'm gonna be here to fight, to make sure that they have those things.
We're the ones that make their profit. The people here in this building on the floor, they're the ones that make sure that Ford is profitable.
Correct. We're all stuck on the Demeter with Dracula in the hold. If you want to go live off on your own and support yourself, there's plenty of colonizable land in Trapistar system.
So why not share in that wealth to make sure that their employees, for the rest of their life, they have a decent living?
Yeah, I think all the oligarchs should take a one-way trip to Mars and see how their technology and wealth plays out for them.
Before you go, please support our work by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And thank you for watching The Classroom. We're always trying to tell more stories.
Okay. So I think that pretty much neatly sets us up for the next video.
today, the age in which you can receive full Social Security benefits are going to rise to 66 years and 10 months starting yesterday. It is the second to last step before it reaches 67. So all those morons who have been calling for the rise of Social Security, you don't have to write that down. All those morons who have been calling for raising the age of Social Security did not know that this was already built into the plan from 1983. There was a deal that was made at that time under a commission that was headed by Alan Greenspan during the Reagan years to gradually raise the age of retirement. So for people my age, if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is at 67. If you were born in 1959 after January 1st, you got 66 years and 10 months.
Hate seeing ads? Here's how to get rid of them or get paid to see them. Do you know how much of the content you see on a daily basis are actually ads? That's
but here's the real issue. You're going to hear they're going to start to come for Social Security. They're going to start saying, like, we can raise the retirement age because people live longer. The fact of the matter,
they don't. Wait. Raise it to what age, bro? The average age, as we just found out, is about mid to late 70s. Okay. Raise it to what? Jesus Christ.
Matter is people in the top 50 percentile of wealth and income live longer, but not in the bottom 50 percentile. Not by much, a year or two. Certainly not much more than 1960, not than being 67 years old. Then you're going to hear, well, when Social Security was first started, we had 4 workers for every 1 person in retirement, and now we have 2. And that is true, except for those 2 workers are far more productive. The real issue that they are not telling you is because of wealth disparity. Some people at the upper end of the spectrum are hoarding so much money that
and like, again, if you want to strengthen Social Security and you want to make sure that there is enough money and it's properly funded so that people can draw on it and people have their retirement there when it's time. Tax the fucking rich, man. Tax the rich. Tax the wealthy people. Lift the cap on Social Security. There's absolutely no reason as to why, say, a doctor who makes like 6 figures, right, like $100 and something thousand, a specialist or whatever, $168,000. There's no reason why that doctor is going to be paying the same amount as Elon freaking Musk, right? That is absurd. That is an absurd notion that needs to change yesterday, 10 years ago. Yeah, 94, so you could never draw on it. Fixed it. Right, it's so freaking obvious. You would think so, right? Like, but the problem is the capital class doesn't want that because it means it's going to cut into their pockets, and that's a big no-no. We can't have that.
Their wages are not touched by the Social Security tax. I'm going to give you an example. If you make $30,000, so just put 30K, you don't have to write make, just put 30K, it's times 6.2%. Can you go down a little bit so we can get it into the middle of the frame a little bit? Just hit the return on this. The employer, or I should say the employee.
You could tell they're using Apple. You could tell they're using Mac. They need that money, exactly.
Pays 6.2.
You know, what was that quote from Rockefeller? It's like, oh, how much wealth do you think is enough? And I forget which Rockefeller it was. I think it was the Rockefeller said just a little bit more.
2%. Yeah, there we go. And just come down a line or two. Yep. Okay, right there. It's good. And that amount is $18.60. Now, your employer matches it. You pay $18.60. Now, equals. This is a math problem. If you make $50,000, you pay 6.2%, and that equals $3,100. If you make $100,000, 6.2, this is easy, $6,200. If you make $176,000 a year, which is where the cutoff is.
Yeah, there it is. That's the quote. That's the one. That's exactly what I was thinking about. It was the Rockefeller. It was the Rockefeller, just a little bit more. Yeah, like, so this is just like absurd greed. To the point where they're like, yeah, I think we could, like, I don't know, shaft elderly people out of retirement if we could. You know, if it helps us save a little bit more money, if it helps us get a little bit more capital in our pockets, then so be it. How about we set the federal minimum wage to 1% of the richest CEO in the country by law? What is 1% of 200 something billion? That would be 1% is 100,000, right? Holy crap. Ah. I think I could make a living off of 100,000 a year. I think I would be more than fine. That won't do. That won't do. They'd have no control over us anymore.
176 at 6.2, you're paying $10,912 in Social Security wage taxes. But here's where it starts getting interesting, and this is the problem. If you make $400,000 a year, it's 6.2% only on the first 176, so it equals $10,912.
Might want to implement copy paste the times 6.2 to the, right? Make it a little easier for you, Bradley?
Yeah. Because it's 6.2 only on the first 176. So you don't even have to do the 6.2%, because if you make $3 million, you don't put the 6.2% anymore, because it only applies. Guess how much tax you pay, wage taxes. Again, it's $10,912. So just put equals $10,912. If you make $100 million a year, and I'm just assuming this is as a wage, you pay $10,912. So the point is that our system caps it at 176. And if that 6.2% was applied to 400,000, it turns out that If you make $400,000, your actual wage tax is 2.7%. If you make $3 million, your actual wage tax is 0.37%. If you make $100 million, it's 0.01%. The problem is that we need to raise the cap on Social Security.
Yep.
That's the only problem.
This business math's just fine. I know of co-ops whose CEO makes like 50% more than the line worker, and everyone working there is pretty satisfied. Well, a co-op implies that that they're all owners, and they all make decisions as to how this runs. So yeah, I mean, I would imagine that not only would the wealth be more spread out evenly, instead of like a CEO making like an absurd 100 to 300 times more than a regular employee. Yeah, like that tracks. Your co-op sounds great. I'm talking about the screen right now. Are you smoking math? This business math's just fine. Yep, correct. They vote on salaries. Right. So like, yeah, of course, it's going to be a much equitable situation.
That so many people are making 400,000 or 3 million or 100 million that we are not touching the same amount of wages that we were in 1983. In 1983, it was 91% of wages made were subject to the Social Security tax, and now it's like 85%.
So you need to eliminate the cap on taxable income, right? Or raise it at the very least. You could eliminate it altogether.
Eliminate it altogether.
The Biden administration was floating a donut hole, which would mean that I mean, frankly, this is kind of the constituency that the Democrats have over-cultivated, the like highly educated upper middle class thing. That would basically make it so that there would be a donut hole.
176 to 250 or
right.
250 to 400 or something like that.
You're not taxed, but then say, I think maybe the proposal was if you're a millionaire or if you're making $500,000. Then
El Abby, hello, welcome.
And it kicks in again. I think that would be preferable to what we have now, but for the longevity of a program, the universality of it makes things more durable, right? So eliminating the cap would be great, but at least raising it significantly makes it so much more durable and less subject to kind of tweaks. Because a donut hole, you could change who is subjected to the donut hole.
Christ asked, is there a reason not to just remove the cap flat out? And there is a reason, and it's called politics.
Yeah.
It's called electoral politics. Because there's a lot more people between 250,000 and 400 or wherever, 200,000 and 400 or 176 and 400. That's why Biden was like, if you made less than 400,000, we're not going to raise your taxes.
Don't worry. Yeah.
That is their theory, where they will not lose the amount of votes that they need to make this, continue to make this a universally beloved program. Regardless, this is the issue. It's not how many workers per retirees. If it was, you could just solve that with immigration. It's not the longevity of people. No. This is the issue. The issue is we do not, because so many people have such concentrated wealth, that wealth is on the other side of the cap that we have on Social Security.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a reason you don't hear about that very topic much, right? It's not You'll hear it sometimes from the Democrats, but from the Republicans, they will make it about immigration. They will make it about worker productivity. And then they'll make it about, this is why we have to justify austerity, because it's not working. We've got to make changes. And those changes will just exacerbate the problem. But that's what we call the myth of right-wing populism, because that's not a thing.
There is a right-wing populism, but it's just a right-wing populism.
Yeah, it's just fascism. Like I don't know. Hold on. Let me let Sam finish here.
It is not economic populism. The right-wing populism is a defined thing, and it is nativism, and it is fascistic. I mean, that's just simply.
Well, yeah, I mean that's Emma's point, though. That's Emma's point. There's no such thing as right-wing populism. It's just fascism. Whenever you hear these people talk about economic populism and like, oh, I'm a right-wing populist, like your Sockers or whatever, they're just fascist. Okay, they just end up being fascist. They co-opt tidbits of real populist language, but that's about it. They don't actually fundamentally believe in workers' rights, or they're not pro-labor in any way, shape, or form. Saagar Enjeti is not pro-labor. The MAGA supposedly right-wing populist wing, well, now it's just the Republican Party. But that's not. They're not pro-labor at all. At all. They just co-opt some language. So they co-opt some language and rhetoric, call it populism, and that's it. But fundamentally, it does not exist. Fundamentally, there's no such thing as right-wing populism. It just ends up being fascism. Shareholders voting on businesses they don't have a personal time investment in is pure evil. When you only have a financial investment in a business, you're a piece of capitalist. Right, but like that's how it works, right? That's how it works. It's completely unemotional. It doesn't care what impacts you have other than what your portfolio looks like at the end of the quarter, right? It's completely detached from emotion or anything like that. It's just that's how it works. Also why I bank at a credit union. That's actually a pretty good idea. That's actually a pretty freaking good idea.
This is a thing. The academics have talked about this for years before it became something that Donald Trump utilized. And it provides some services and some material benefit, but based upon things like race. And
in Viktor Orban's Hungary, benefits based on your heterosexuality, right? Like they'll have benefits for certain families, but only if they fit into a specific mode of what a family looks like. And say if your wife doesn't work and is more in the home, a traditional family, that's their vision.
It's interesting that like right-wing populism and I'd say like maybe Frantz Fanon critique of nationalistic movements not having a class analysis are kind of the same issue, because nationalism, you have sort of nationalistic revolutions that or anti-colonial revolutions get the colonial power out of it, but then just replace with another bourgeoisie of, that looks more like them.
I'm not trying to say that it's not a movement, but I am trying to say that there's a fallacy inherent in the word populism.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're just arriving. It's a semantics game, really. That's what this is. SB Harkin, welcome. I'm switching to my school's credit union before Trump takes office. I had a previous account in a credit union before I left Florida. Pretty decent, actually.
That they're trying to deploy because it's not for any.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
When you say populism, you could be talking about fascism or you could be talking about socialism. And so the word itself, deployed in that way, I am a populist, tells you nothing about that person. until they define whether they are a right-wing populist or a left-wing populist. Because you might as well just say, I am a human on some level. You can be good, you can be bad.
Right.
You can be tall, you can be short. It doesn't, it is a baby-brained. The only people who really utilize the term populist, and it imports all that it needs to import, are folks like neoliberals or elites.
Yeah.
Those are the people who see value in that term because it allows them to get rid of a wide swath of people. But if you are talking about your own populism, to say I'm a populist tells the listener nothing about what you believe in, because you do not want to get in bed with those right-wing populists if you are an economic populist or a left-wing populist, because it doesn't end up very good.
Because the economics
The real versus fake populism.
stuff that they talk about, my overall point is it's a lie. Like, JD Vance can talk about the child tax credit all he wants. He didn't show up to the vote.
Right, exactly. The reason why I think that I think a better way of putting it is that the reason why we say things like right-wing populism doesn't really exist. It's because, like, at the end of the day, the people that call themselves right-wing populists just end up being fascists and end up serving capital, which is not populism at all. Does that make sense? At the end of the day, the people that call themselves, quote, right-wing populists, or I'm a populist, but I'm on the conservative side of that, they just end up serving the interests of capital. Not very populist at the end of the day. When I think populist, I think like someone who would advocate for labor. When I think populist, someone who would advocate for universal safety nets, someone who would advocate for universal programs. And while, like Sam said, some may advocate for that, at the end of the day, they serve capital, right? JD Vance doesn't care about the working class. JD Vance serves capital. Who put him there? A billionaire oligarch. That's who he serves. So that's why I say that right-wing populism technically doesn't exist. I know it's playing a game of semantics, but that's why I say that it doesn't exist. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, people may categorize themselves as right-wing populists and may implement rhetoric that sounds populist, maybe on the surface, but they end up just serving capital. Does that make sense?
JD Vance can talk about how much he likes Lena Khan all he wants. Doesn't matter. She's still being ousted as FTC's chair. So they're lying about the economic elements.
Hey, folks.
Correct. And that's the whole point of being... Whoa. That's the whole point of being a populist, right? It's in the name. Populist. The exact definition is a person, especially a politician, who strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by established elite groups, i.e. the establishment, right? Relating to or characteristic of a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel their concerns are disregarded by established elite groups. So, not the right wing, right? They're not by default. They're not going to look out for the concerns of ordinary people. They might pretend to. They might even co-opt some rhetoric that will sound a little bit like populist, but fundamentally they serve those said elites, right? The capital class, the oligarchs, the plutocrats, whatever you want to call them. The wealthy capitalists is who we're talking about. Ultimately, that's who they serve. They are the elite who ignore the commoners. Right. So, like, again, I know it's playing like a semantics game, but that's why we say that doesn't exist. That right-wing populism doesn't exist because they fundamentally don't care about the ordinary people, about the working class people, right? This is all about serving capital. Well, I guess we can't talk about today without talking about January 6th. I just find it so absurd that we are about to inaugurate a person who tried to overturn the election that he lost in 2020. We are about to inaugurate a person who inspired insurrectionary behavior on this very day that he has now been again, this is a ceremonial gesture, but nonetheless I think its symbolism is pretty it's pretty stark. The contrast now is jarring, if that makes sense. Media did this to us. Yeah, I can't let that go. Timestamp. So every day since January 1st has been January 1st of 2021. Right. And it's something that you need to continue to remind people that this happened. And it's not that it's surprising. It's not that it's not that it's surprising. It's just that it's I refuse to normalize and just kind of shrug this off and say like this is just Trump, it's just Trump. Like, no, this is wild. This is absurd. And again, it's not that I'm surprised, it's more that I'm not shocked either. It's just what's the right word? Because it's not shocking. Not right now. Not really. It's disturbing, I guess. That this is what we're looking at right now. That this is what we're looking at right now. Congress has certified Trump's win 4 years after he inspired the insurrection. Congress today, Monday, has certified President-elect Trump's 2024 victory exactly 4 years after he stirred up a mob that did the insurrection at the Capitol in a failed attempt to disrupt the certification of the 2020 election loss and keep him in power. I mean, like, that's just wild, man. Just like 5 seconds here to just kind of take that in, right? So, dude loses the election, inspires or incites an insurrection in the Capitol. A lot of people are hurt. Some even died. Thousands are facing charges. A couple of groups, like their cohorts, have been sentenced, convicted of sedition, and we are now set to inaugurate that same person. Again, please don't think that this is normal. Like, the normalization of this cannot happen, and it should be as horrific and as appalling as it was in 2021. Vice President Harris oversaw the certification of her defeat, which went smoothly without drama amid a citywide snow emergency declaration. Media has normalized it. Yes. Sane washing. I actually like that term, sane washing. Democracy, quote, must be upheld by the people, Harris told NBC News moments ahead of the certification. One by one, the designees counted the electoral votes of each state for the winning candidate. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, currently a senator from Ohio, sat in the chamber and watched from the front row. Here's another thing that that's wild about this. The fake electors, right, that participated in the fake elector scheme with the intent and mission to overturn that election that Trump lost. Those people became the official electors that now put in their votes for the 2024 election. To add to the absurdity of it all. Standing next to her at the lectern in the House chamber was Speaker Mike Johnson, who in 2021 helped engineer the failed objections to certifying President Biden's victory. And that's the speaker, by the way, who is second in line to the presidency, right? Who is second in line to the presidency. I mean, like, that's just wild. That's just wild. Somehow Elon hacked the votes in swing states. I don't know if that's what happened. What happened was Elon ran what I would consider a vote bribery scheme in swing states. What I personally would consider a bribery scheme to buy votes in swing states. And of course he pumped in a lot of money from his own money to the PACs that ran the campaigns and whatnot. So yeah, I guess in that sense, Elon Musk had a huge hand, not just by using Twitter, but by pumping in a lot of money into PACs and by doing his part in the swing states. Whether or not, whether or not that specifically was enough to guarantee the election, I don't know. But I do know that Elon certainly tried. Elon certainly did his part and was rewarded for it by being given the president's ear, essentially. Donald Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes, said Harris. Kamala Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. 4 years ago, 147 Republicans voted to overturn the result and discount electors for Biden, even though Trump had failed to produce any evidence that the result was illegitimate. This time, Democrats chose not to respond in kind, instead seeking to return January 6th to its historical roots as a boring root affair where the president-elect is certified without drama. Yeah, well, the Republicans are the ones that made it like this. So, yeah. January 6th should be an unremarkable day. This is a day that the rest of America should never really have to think about, said newly minted Senator Andy Kim. Just a pro forma certification of the election results. The fact that it is a day that still lingers in our consciousness kind of shows how broken our politics are. Right, and by whom? The top House Democrat made clear that January 6th of 2025 would be drama-free. 2 months ago, the American people elected Trump as the 47th president, said House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries as Republicans clapped. Thank you for your generous applause. It's okay. There are no election deniers on our side of the aisle. Yeah. One should love America when you win and when you lose, Jeffries continued. That's the patriotic thing to do. And that's the America that House Democrats will fight hard to preserve because we love this country. America is bigger than any one campaign, any one election, and any one individual. That's cool. So what are you going to do about this incoming trifecta of Republican control? On Sunday, Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a snow emergency. We got a big snowstorm, and we encourage all our colleagues to not leave town, stay here, said Johnson, because, as you know, the electoral count requires us on January 6th at 1 p.m., so whether we're in a blizzard or not, we're going to be in that chamber making sure this is done. Even with some absences, the certification process does not require full attendance. Many House Republicans are present, having stayed in Washington over the weekend for a retreat. In late 2022, Democratic-controlled Congress passed a law overhauling the certification process in a bid to prevent another January 6th type event and make it harder for future presidential candidates to steal an election. Among the changes, the vice president's role is clarified to eliminate any room for doubt that he or she cannot refuse to count the electoral. I can't highlight this stuff without it going. Okay. That have already been certified by the states, and the threshold for voting on an objection to counting certain electoral votes is up from just one House member and senator to 1/5 of each chamber. It also includes safeguards against injecting fake electors into the process. Unlike 2021, when Trump invited his supporters to come to Washington for certification on January 6th, and then urged them to fight like hell during a speech in the morning, widespread protests were not expected in Washington this time around. Yeah, I would imagine that mainly because A, Trump won, B, there is a serious snowstorm happening right now, and I believe another second wave to be coming this week. Still, Capitol Police and Secret Service raised temporary fencing around the Capitol for security, and January 6th was previously declared a national special security event. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger said the fencing will remain up through Trump's inauguration. Echo Resto Dragon brought this up earlier. So I guess let's have a little laugh here at the expense of Rudy Giuliani. Now, after losing practically everything, Rudy Giuliani is, I guess, continuing to engage in the self-humiliation ritual. I assume this is just something that he is at this point doing on purpose. Rudy Giuliani is in contempt of court in the $148 million defamation case. Rudy Giuliani was found in contempt of court today for failing to properly respond to requests for information that he turned over assets to satisfy a $148 million defamation judgment granted to the two Georgia election workers. Judge Louis Lehman ruled after hearing Giuliani testify for his second day at a contempt hearing, called after lawyers for the election workers said the former New York City mayor had failed to properly comply with requests for evidence over the last few months. Liam said Giuliani willfully violated a clear and unambiguous order of this court when he blew past the December 20th deadline to turn over evidence that would help the judge decide at a trial later this month whether Giuliani can keep a Palm Beach, Florida condominium as his residence or must turn it over because it is deemed a vacation home. Man, they're taking everything from him. And you know what? Serves him right, honestly. Unfortunately, this is a rare case where, there's going to be some type of accountability. A lot of the people who have inspired this election denialism and have largely gotten away with it, save for a couple of cases. As punishment for the contempt finding, the judge said he will decide at the trial whether some of the missing evidence would show that Giuliani continued doing business in New York rather than Florida after January 1st of 2024. That's when the former mayor said he established the Florida property as his permanent home. Lehman said that he would withhold judgment on other possible sanctions. On Friday, Giuliani testified for about 3 hours in Lehman's Manhattan courtroom, but the judge permitted him to finish testifying remotely on Monday from his condominium in Palm Beach, Florida. At the start of the hearing, Giuliani had an American flag backdrop, which he said he uses for a program he conducts over the internet, but the judge told him to change it to a plain background. Oh my goodness. Incidentally, that is the same program in which he, I believe, engaged in this defamation. And part of the reason why he's in the situation that he's in. Giuliani concedes that he sometimes does not turn over everything requested in the case because he believed that what was being sought was overly broad, inappropriate, or even a trap set by lawyers for his plaintiffs. Well, then you have to argue that, man. You can't just say no and not do it. You have to argue your case as to why that's not relevant. He also said he sometimes had trouble turning over information regarding his assets because of the numerous criminal and court cases requiring him to produce factual information. Oh boy, that's just wild. Giuliani, 80, said demands made it impossible to function in an official way about 30 to 40% of the time. The election workers' lawyer said Giuliani had displayed a consistent pattern of willful defiance of Lehman's October order to give up assets after he was found liable in 2023 for defaming their clients by falsely accusing them of tampering with ballots during the 2020 election. They said in court papers that Giuliani has turned over a Mercedes-Benz at his New York apartment, but not the paperwork necessary to monetize the assets. They said that he had failed to surrender watches and sports memorabilia, including a Joe DiMaggio jersey, which he has not turned over a single dollar from his non-exempt cash accounts. Giuliani said Monday that he was investigating what happened to that DiMaggio jersey and that he currently doesn't know where it is or who has it. Sure, buddy. Aaron Nathan, a lawyer for the election workers, asked Lehman to decide the meaning of Giuliani withholding information, such as a list of his doctors over the last 4 years, that would make it more likely the court would conclude that the Palm Beach property was not his primary residence and therefore not protected from seizure. Joseph Camarata, Giuliani's attorney, said reaching such a conclusion would be like civil death penalty and would cause Giuliani to lose the Florida property even before the trial scheduled to start in 10 days. That's when the judge is supposed to hear testimony and show evidence before deciding what should be done with the condominium and World Series rings. Giuliani has insisted that Palm Beach property is his personal residence and now and should be shielded from judgment. His lawyers have predicted that he will eventually win custody of the items on appeal. Sure. Good luck. Good luck with that. Good freaking luck with that, man. You deserve every bit of what's happening. So yeah. Cheeseburger Freedom Eagle, welcome back. Giuliani is really in the find out phase. Oh yeah, in the big find out phase. He's basically being taken for everything that he owns finding out phase. And quite frankly, I'm here for it. I'm here for the catharsis. Really. New Majority Leader Thune kicks off Senate session with pledge to preserve the filibuster. So, in an interesting, whether or not that will remain the case is yet to be seen. But that is actually quite surprising. The new Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, is kicking off the new session with a promise. I don't know how much that's worth, to be quite frank, but okay. To preserve the filibuster, saying in his first floor speech that as leader, his priority will be to ensure the Senate stays the Senate. Thune and Senate Republicans are taking power on Friday, a little more than 2 weeks before Trump will be inaugurated, cementing a firm GOP hold on Washington. And Thune will have to navigate his new responsibilities along with the new president, who has made clear that he expects allegiances from Congress and has previously called for eliminating the filibuster. Opening up the 2-year Senate session on Friday, and after Thune returning senators are sworn in, Thune said the legislative tactic that allows senators to delay consideration of a measure requires 60 votes for passage has perhaps the greatest impact in preserving the founders' vision of the Senate. There are a lot of people out there who would like to see the Senate turn into a copy of the House of Representatives, and that is not what our founders intended or what our country needs. Quite frankly, the Senate, quite frankly, should be abolished and integrated into the House of Representatives, at best. The Senate is fundamentally undemocratic, and it is really not necessary in this iteration. Not really necessary in this format. Senate Republicans have long maintained that the filibuster remain in place despite Thune's pleas to eliminate it and speed his agenda during the first half of his term, when Republicans also had control of the White House and Congress. But our esteemed senators object. Thune knows the blue MAGA Dems are secretly on his right-wing side, so he does not feel threatened by the filibuster. That's a good point. I gotta go. This Chinese food isn't gonna eat itself. Nice. Enjoy. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. Many Democrats wanted to eliminate the filibuster in the early days of President Biden's term, but were stymied by moderates in the Senate. Moderates. Okay. In the Senate Democratic caucus, who said it would upend the Senate's deliberative role. Interesting. Former West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin had called it the holy grail of democracy. That's quite the descriptor there, but okay. The holy grail of democracy would be the majority of who controls the government would ideally, because these are representatives of the people. So ideally, the party that wins the majority should have the ability to pass legislation on a majority basis. While Republicans aren't ready to eliminate the filibuster, which make it harder to win some votes in the 53 to 47 Senate, they are preparing to try and quickly pass as much of Trump's agenda through a legislative mechanism that circumvents it. Nice. Nice. So that's why they don't care about the filibuster. Like Democrats during Biden's term, they are planning to use a process called budget reconciliation that would allow them to approve bills on party line votes with a simple majority. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I remember. This makes a lot of sense. Early priorities will be border security and reviving tax cuts for the wealthy, moderates. The Senate will also have to approve Trump's cabinet nominees, some of which will have already faced skepticism from Republican senators once he is inaugurated on January 20th. Hearings are expected to begin before then. Thune was elected by the GOP conference in November to replace Mitch McConnell, the longtime Republican leader who announced last year that he would stay in the Senate but step down from leadership. Outgoing Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who will remain Democratic leader, the Democratic leader advised Thune in a floor speech on Friday to work in a bipartisan way on legislation, pointing to bills like an infrastructure passage passed by Democratic majority during the first half of Biden's presidency. I don't know if that's going to happen. Filibuster. I want to unilaterally say F you to anything you want. Exactly. The majority leader sets the tone, and the tone determines to a large extent how successful we'll be moving forward. It's unclear, though, how much leverage or desire Thune will have to seek out bipartisanship, as Trump has pressured him already to circumvent Senate rules and pass some of his cabinet nominees without votes. Ahead of the inevitable partisan fights, though, there's a celebratory move on Friday as 9 new senators were sworn in, 4 Democrats and 5 Republicans. Vice President Kamala Harris presided as they approached the dais in group of 4, along with the returning senators taking the oath of office. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, who is still an Ohio senator, was also on the floor and stood up with new Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican who defeated Democrat Sherrod Brown, and was sworn in. The 2 newly elected Democrats were sworn in last month to fill vacancies and were sworn in again on Friday. California Senator Adam Schiff was elected to fill the seat of the late Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein, and New Jersey Senator Andy Kim replaced former Senator Bob Menendez, who resigned last year after he was convicted on bribery charges. Yep. A 6th Republican, Jim Justice of West Virginia, announced last month that he will wait to enter the Senate until after his successor as West Virginia's governor, Republican Patrick Morrisey, is sworn in on January 13th. So that's cool. Whether or not the Republicans will hold to this is yet to be seen. However, it is true that they don't need necessarily to be worried about the filibuster at this time. Maybe if Thune wants to rule like Mitch McConnell, if Thune ends up being like Mitch McConnell, then maybe he might have a reconsideration after the midterms, depending on what happens there. Or if, I believe that's the only. At that point, they may reconsider. Otherwise, Republicans are going to be relegated to passing bills through budget reconciliation, which makes complete sense. It makes complete sense since Democrats, that's how they did it. All right, folks, we have one more story. Biden to ban offshore oil gas drilling in vast areas ahead of Trump term. U.S. President Biden will now ban new offshore oil and gas development along the most of the U.S. coastline. The decision President-elect Trump, who has vowed to boost domestic energy production, may find difficult to reverse. The move is considered mostly symbolic, as it will not impact areas where oil and gas development is currently underway, and mainly covers zones where drillers have no important prospects, including the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. So another way of putting it is this is a giant nothing burger that makes it sound like you're doing something, but it's fundamentally not really doing much. Does that make sense? The White House said on Monday that Biden will use his authority under 70-year-old Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act to protect all federal waters off East and West Coast, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and portions of the northern Bering Sea and Alaska. The ban will affect 625 million acres of ocean. Biden said the move was aligned with both his efforts to combat climate change and his goal to conserve 30% of U.S. lands and water by 2030. He also invoked the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, saying the low drilling potential of the areas included in the ban did not justify the public health and economic risk of future leasing. My decision reflects what coastal communities, businesses, and beachgoers have known for a long time, that drilling off these coasts could cause irreversible damage to places we hold dear and is unnecessary to meet our nation's energy needs, is not worth the risk. Around 15% of U.S. oil production comes from federal offshore acreage, mainly in the Gulf of Mexico, a share that has been falling sharply in the last decade as drilling onshore booms, according to U.S. Energy Information Administration. The U.S. is now the world's top oil and gas producer. Nice. Cool. Very cool. Thanks to big increase in production from places like Texas and New Mexico, fueled by improved drilling technology and strong demand since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The announcement comes as Trump has pledged to reverse Biden's conservation and climate change policies when he takes office later this month. It's ridiculous. I'll unban it immediately. I will unban it. I had the right to unban it immediately. Immediately. Drill, baby, drill. During his term, Biden also limited new oil and gas leases on federal lands and waters, drawing criticism from drilling states and companies. Except he also approved very large projects that effectively guaranteed fossil fuels for decades. But the Lands Act, which allows presidents to withdraw areas from mineral leasing and drilling, does not grant them the legal authority to overturn prior bans, according to a 2019 court ruling, meaning a reversal would likely require an act of Congress. That order came in response to Trump's effort to reverse the Arctic and Atlantic Ocean withdrawal made by former President Obama at the end of his presidency. Trump also used the Lands Act to ban sales of offshore drilling rights in eastern Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Florida through 2032. Biden's decision will protect the same area with no expiration. It is unclear whether lawmakers would support reversing Biden's decision to protect these waters. A Trump-era proposal in 2018 to open up the Atlantic, Pacific, and new parts of the Arctic Oceans to offshore drilling drew vehement opposition from most coastal states, including those led by Republicans. The states argued that at the time that offshore drilling would pose a significant risk to lucrative coastal tourism. So, chap, welcome. Howdy, howdy. Welcome, welcome. We urge policymakers, oil gas industry trade groups said the decision would harm American energy security and should be reversed. Nah, I think we're good on that. I think we're good. We urge policymakers to use every tool at their disposal to reverse this politically motivated decision and restore a pro-American energy approach to federal leasing. Yeah, no thanks, said American Petroleum Institute President Mike Sommers in a statement. The environmental group Oceana called it a victory for Americans who depend on clean coastlines and fisheries. Our treasured coastal communities are now safeguarded for future generations. Yeah, so I don't know if this even did much other than reinforce things that were already in place, rather, or in any case, the Trump administration, the incoming Trump administration, certainly would like to open up areas for even more drilling. It is truly absurd that more action was not done during the times that action could have been taken. At no point were climate policy, serious climate policy that could have been introduced using a perhaps more heavy-handed approach that is necessary at this point, that never materialized. And now whatever little progress that was made is, at least on the federal level, is basically null. It's basically null. That's cool. That's cool. Dem president failing to oppose red MAGA fascism again. All right, folks. It is just over 7 o'clock, so I gotta get going. Let's see if this thing is still on. Hey, there we go. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for stopping by. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for your support. Without you guys, this can't continue. If you guys want to keep supporting the channel, keep spreading the word, folks. Keep lending me your eyeballs. I appreciate you guys being here. Keep lending me your likes. Keep lending me your follows. You guys are what makes this the channel go. I appreciate it. Subscriptions on YouTube as well. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal in 2024, and I appreciate you guys, and I'm sure that we'll do awesome this year as well. Thank you, Michael Hasser and Heat, for modding the chat. If you guys want to support the channel, there are many different ways. As I said, keep lending me your eyeballs, keep lending me your likes, your follows, all that awesome stuff. Spread the word. That really helps us out. If you want to support the channel, check out the merch store. You can also tip directly and subscribe to the Substack. It's completely free, by the way. Subscribe to the Substack. I'll be firing that up either this week or next week. That's going to be coming back as well. Join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord. We do have events there as well. So I appreciate you guys who are in the Discord as well. For the YouTube folks, thank you for liking the stream. Thank you for watching, and thank you for liking the stream and subscribing as well. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of you guys. As always, we'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you all. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. See ya. Whew. Hang tight, folks. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, folks. Hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.